Hi everyone, Zoe here from Make It Crafty. Today I decided to do something a little bit different. I have recorded myself colouring the little Christmas angel illustrated by Chrissy Armstrong, and I have sped it up so that you can see the whole process. It will be split up into two videos. The image took me about an hour and a half to colour, and I've managed to decrease the size of it down to about 20 minutes. So hopefully I'll be able to try and talk you through what I've been doing. So I started off with E quadruple zero, and I'm just coming in now with E triple zero, and you'll notice that I just layer my colors lightly on top of each other, and I keep building the layers as I add the additional depth. So I'm just putting R20 for her blush on now. I like to start early in the piece so that I can blend it in with my skin colors to try and hopefully make it look a bit more natural. I'm blending that now with E01 and adding some shading. So I'm just coming out back in with E00 and blending that out. You'll notice as I move my hand away that the camera makes the colors very high contrast, but it is a lot lighter in real life. Now I'm coming in with E quadruple zero just to blend it all out. I decided I wasn't too happy with it, so I'm just adding a little bit more of E triple O at this point. And I'm coming back in now with E01 just to make it a little bit more darker, give her a bit more depth. And that's the beauty of starting light and just working your colors into it. You can, rather than being left with having to take ink away, just because you're slowly adding it, you can continue to change your mind, as I do. So at this point I brought in E11 just to add a little bit more depth. I want to make her cheek just a little bit more red on that side. She'd lost some of the redness. So because the area on the hands were quite small, I started with E00. And now I'm going to add some shading with E01 and E11 just to finish that off, and then I'll blend it back again with E00. And when you're blending small areas, you just need to do a few little dots. So now I'm going to show you how I do the folds in a dress. And I'm starting here with R20, and that's just to get me started on where I'm going to have my highlights. Now I'm bringing in R22. I'm very rough at this point. It's really just a matter of laying down the colour to give myself some direction. So now I'm working with R24. And now I'm bringing in R29. And I'll start working back out again. So I'll bring in R24 again. And now I'm blending that with R22. And most of the dress will be coloured with R22. That's going to be my main colour. So what I'm doing now is I'm looking for the areas of where the skirt at the bottom is going to be ruffled against the floor. And the way that I do that is I look for the high points and the low points of the curves. And where there's a low point, I add the shading colour and bring it up to like a triangle point. So I'm making it thinner at the top and a little bit thicker in the middle. and then I start blending that out. So I'm coming in with R29 there just to give that center area of those folds a little bit extra depth. So now I'm doing R22 and I'm blending that all out. So as I colour, I'm using a very light touch. I'm letting the ink do the work rather than me. So I'm just barely touching the paper most of the time. So now I'm just coming in with R20 and I'm starting to blend into all the highlights now. So now I've come back with R22 and that would be R20. So as you can see, the camera at the moment has really made the reds quite vibrant and they're definitely not this saturated. It was very hard for me to try and edit it out. So the trick to do with reds is that you really want to have your depth because you don't want your image to end up looking too pink. So you use your R20 sparingly, and as long as you've used enough of your R24 and R29, you're going to get that red look. So what I'm actually doing here is to add that extra depth is I'm using E19. It's my new trick to getting that extra depth in red images. So I just added some shading in some areas. So now I really have no idea at this point where I'm going to have my folds in the sleeve. So I'm just laying down some R20 to experiment really to see where I want those folds. And as I start adding each layer of color, I'm now using R22, it starts to build. And that's a great thing with Copics. Every time you go over it, even with the same color, you start getting a little bit darker. So you can always see the difference when you're doing your folds like this. So now I'm using R24. And now I'm just adding a little bit of R29. And I'm come back in with R24 here. Now I'm with R20. R24 again. No, that'll be R22. So I started with R22 there and then put a little bit of R24. Under other sleeve I had absolutely no idea and it was complete guesswork and I had to keep working it until I was happy with it. So I'm just slowly mucking around with those colours until I think that it looks okay.